What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and today, back on the Trans Am. I was gonna actually not film this portion, but I've decided, you know what? It may be beneficial for you guys to see kind of what I'm doing here. So let me just run down where we're at, and based off the last video. So in the last video, you saw me make these brackets out of, let's just look here because I don't remember. It is 1/8 inch flat plate, 1.25 inch wide. It's a 4-foot long piece. That's all that I had left after these two pieces. So I bent these two pieces to mount my trans cooler back here. Now, I am using the outer hole where this used to be riveted. Chances are, well, I would have had to take the rivet out of at least this portion. I cut this off. There's generally two little strands that come down that connect to the big plastic piece on the bumper. We've tested the bumper. You guys saw that in the last video. It fits fine with the trans cooler here. So what I've done was I marked where the cooler is going to mount on each one of these pieces. I have marked on the bottom. I drilled a hole and marked on the bottom where we're going to have to drill through the floor. I know it sucks, but we're doing it. And so now what I'm doing is I'm taking this apart because I want to paint these, I want to drill these, I want to make sure that everything fits. But I've marked the holes on the bottom where they need to be, but I didn't want to drill through the carpet. I didn't want somebody to look down in the well here and see that, hey, this guy just drilled some holes all willy-nilly. I don't like that. So I want to hide them under the carpet. And so I've got some bolts. We'll look at that here in just a little bit. But in order to get this carpet out, if you have a T-top car, you're going to have to take the two 10mm nuts off each side, pull that section out. You can see that side there on top of the brakes. Obviously the carpet, there's one little push-in clip right here you got to pull out, and then you can wiggle that carpet out. And honestly, guys, I want to make this happen quickly. I don't want this sitting out for multiple days or that will start to lose its shape. So I want to get it right back in. We're not going to hook it up because we're going to make another video soon on something else, which is going to make people that are purists even more mad. But anyway, let me get this all apart. And then I'm going to kind of show you where I'm going to drill the holes and what I've got in mind. I went to my local hardware store and bought some Hillman like nuts and bolts. And I bought stainless because I thought it's going to be back there. Look, this car's never going to see rain probably. But I bought these bolts, which are going to be the big ones that hold the bottom of that plate. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But these smaller ones, the little short ones, are going to hold the actual cooler that's on top of the tire there to the plates that I made. And then the little longer ones are going to go up top here to hold this back in place. And I ultimately decided I'm going to put 4 back in since it had 4 rivets before. I just think it'll hold up better if I do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to loosely fit these in, even though we're not ready because I got to paint those pieces first. Just kind of want to set everything up. Well, I did it. I drilled 2 holes in the bottom. You can see they're pretty square. This well isn't like perfectly square, but that's what I've got there. But I want to show you on the bottom what I've got. So I've got the holes drilled in the plate. Everything's somewhat mounted up. I will tell you guys, I'm going to have to assemble this before I put it back on and put it all kind of on as one unit, or maybe loosely thread these together. There's just not a lot of room right here for me to get back here and tighten the bottom ones up anyway. But here's what I came up with on the bottom. So obviously I made this plate that comes down and hooks to the bottom. And this thing is super sturdy, and I don't even have it snug yet. But what I ended up using to space this out, I didn't want it setting up against the metal and rattling. So I used a sway bar bushing. This is off of a sway bar end link. I had an extra one sitting over there. And so what I did was I drilled the hole just a little bit bigger. And when I put this in to stay, I'm going to put a little silicone around that. So just in case we were in some damp weather, there's not going to be anything that like ekes up into the spare tire well, not even the spare tire well, the well in the back. I don't want any moisture getting in there. Like I said, I don't plan on driving in the rain, but if a guy gets stuck in the rain, that would keep stuff out. I just thought this would work really well. It's about a 1/2 inch in depth. And then I drilled, this is a 1/2 inch bolt. Now I may experiment with different sizes, or what I may do is once I get it snug, cut the end of this off. But at this point, we know it's going to work. This is it fits great. The bumper fits. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to take it all back apart. I'm going to scuff this up right here, this bar, and I'm going to paint it black so it looks a little nicer. and then we'll go back together to stay. Here's what I did. Put silicone under both of those washers, had Cohen hold them while I was bolting the bottom in place. Also put a little bit of silicone on the top side of the bushing that I used, and I went ahead and cinched those down. Obviously, guys, I painted this like I said I was going to. I scuffed it up and painted it black so it didn't look bad. The other thing I did was I rounded the edges so it looks equal, looks a little nicer than just a squared off, jaggedly cut edge that I had before. Got it bolted up here, got the actual trans cooler bolted to it. Look how strong that is, look how sturdy. That's insane. The only give is in the aluminum on the bracket. That other bracket isn't really moving. This is perfect. Now we need to move on. I'm gonna let that silicone dry, and then I think I'm gonna take probably a little kill mat and just go over the top of those bolts so they're not like, I don't know, so they don't kind of poke up. I mean, look, we've got an area, I don't think you'll ever notice, the carpet will be over them, but I think I'll put a couple strips of kill mat kind of over that. Next thing we're gonna do is, I've gotta mount these lines, but I've also gotta take the gas tank out. What I'm thinking is my life will be a lot easier if the gas tank's out of the way to kind of route these lines where I'm thinking I want them to go. I would love for them to come out of this opening right here, but I'm gonna have to put a grommet or something in this if I do that. I wanna keep them away from the exhaust. Obviously the exhaust tip's here. But before I do that, we need to take this plate loose, okay? 7 millimeters, and there's, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 of them. Let's get it out of the way. Now that we got all those 7 millimeters out, you can see we got our plate out, and then there's another second one that goes kind of over on this side. You'll see what I'm talking about. You can see it stacked up there on top of it, but there were 3 in it. So we had to get all those out of the way. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take the panhard rod mount, which is, I think those are 15 millimeters there. We'll take those out. There's 3 of those, which is crazy there's that many there. And then just the single, what I'm assuming is the same as the panhard, which is what, like 21 and 18. Let's get that bar out of the way. It was indeed 15 millimeters, and it was 18 and 21. And now this guy is out. Now, look, normally you could just go ahead and start cranking down on the straps, which there's a bolt in the front, but we got to undo a few more things. See the, well, I guess my light just disappeared, but we've got bolts there in the front. Obviously, drop the tank. We've got a couple of the lines unhooked because I unhooked those a long time ago. You can see this, which is kind of a push connection. Same thing with this one, which is also a push connection. And then I've got the other one zip tied up that's supposed to go on the end of the fuel filter. So you can see that I've, you know, knew that we were going to be doing this down the road. So you do need to get those 3 things unhooked. However, we need to worry about the gas nozzle, which is over here in the corner, and you should have a bolt up top, which I'll get to in a second, and then it goes in a clip down here in the bottom. Let me get a little more light over here so you can see if I can reach my light. Okay, just a 7 millimeter up top, and then it's just a clip down here in the bottom, not a whole lot to it. Let's get that 7 out, get this guy out of the way. Oh, I take that back. Look, there's a push-in clip right there as well. We got to get like one of the ones with the screw fitting on it. Once we get that out, it's just a little plate. We can go ahead and take, there's 2 screws that hold the gas cap on, well, cap, this little container deal. And what I think though is we're gonna have to take this guy off. Holy cow, how long has it been since this has been on? And the reason we're gonna take that off is it's gonna, I think we can pull it through there. Maybe not, I may be wrong, but so there's 2 screws there, and then there's one that holds the neck. I think that's a 13, look, or a 10 right there. And then we should be able to get the lines loose and start dropping the tank. Actually, take a look, that neck piece comes off once you get those 2 screws out. It just kind of, it's got a little bit of a clip over here, push it over, comes off. Now we need to do is get that 10 out. We got everything loose out there, so now I'm moving my way in here, and all of this is part of the electronics, right, for the fuel pump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out, and then cut all the zip ties that I've got holding the lines, and we're ready. I'm gonna put a jack under here just because I have no idea how much gas is in this. And just like that, the gas tank's out. It's got a little more gas in it than I thought it did, but I was able to manage it. I put that jack under it and kind of let it down. It started to want to go forward. I was able to put my hand under it and just let the jack slowly fall. But at the same time, I was watching this. Okay, so our nozzle had to come out at the same time. So you can see why guys cut trap doors. And that is what we are going to do. Probably not in this video, but in the next video on this car. We still got some more stuff that I want to address here, but yeah, I'm going to be cutting a trap door in this car. As a matter of fact, I've already bought the trap door I'm going to be using. But you could definitely tell this car came from Oklahoma in a dusty environment. It's dusty, not rusty, but we're going to have to clean this tank up. I don't know. I will probably power wash it. I don't think it'll cause me any issues. We're going to be revamping the whole wiring / pump setup in this anyway, but that'll be in a different video. Let's get back under there and see what I want to do next. The next thing I'm attempting to do is I want to get the lines away from the exhaust, okay, but I want them to run out the back. So we've got, I know I'm going to pin them up basically up against the outer spring pocket there. So right about there, and they're going to come back to here. So what I was thinking is I could pull them through this, okay, and then they would come out of this guy. Now, the problem with that is that's a really sharp edge, and this is pretty sharp too. And so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come straight back. I'm going to drill 2 additional holes, one here and one here, and we're going to put a grommet on them. So I think I've got one here actually. So just a circle grommet. I'm going to have one like about in the middle of those 2 bolts, and then another one here. And then that'll be a nice straight shot up away from the exhaust pipes, because the plan is to have catback exhaust on this, obviously. And then we can go into the cooler from there. So hopefully that makes sense. But I'm going to mark these. We're going to drill a couple holes, and we're going to see if we can make that happen. I've actually taken a stopping point here because I need to clean that. It's been raining. I really didn't want to take it outside in the rain. I don't know why, because I'm going to try to power wash it, honestly. But I also ordered a different part, and we'll talk more about that. I don't know if it'll be in this video or not, but I got my 2 holes drilled, and it took me forever to drill these holes. So now what I've got is a couple 7/8 grommets. And so I'm going to attempt to get these in place. I'm hoping that they will work, and I'm trying to figure out whether I want to use any silicone on them to make sure they don't move. I don't think I'm necessarily going to need to, but let me see if I can get them seated in here. And it honestly, guys, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put a little silicone on them. I don't know. This is a little thicker here than this is over here. This one's fitting a little better. I actually bumped up to the 1 inch, and my hole is about a 7/8 inch hole, but it was a little too small for the set, or a little too big for the 7/8. This works perfect. You can see I've already cut myself up. Generally I wear gloves, but these are not going anywhere. They were ridiculously hard. So what I did was I got them started and pushed through, and then I took my pick and went around making sure the outside was here and the inside from the inner was there. So now the only problem is, because this is all frayed, it won't go through there, but that's fine. I'm going to cut it really quick. I'm going to wrap it in tape and cut it. We'll leave the tape on. That'll get it through the opening, and then we'll kind of be able to figure out where we need to mount things. And I put some tape on the end and tried to cut them pretty flush. We're going to be cutting them again, obviously, when we're ready to put the ends on. But the ends are something else that I had to actually order, because this kit that I bought comes with 90s. And the problem is the 90, it just doesn't really work here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. Let me get these routed through. We're just going to kind of, like I said, loosely put them in place. I wanted to show you what I'm talking about with the 90s. So the kit came with the 90s, and look, you could probably make them work, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we'd be going like this, and then you'd have to come up into it, and it's just going to put a weird angle on it, I think, when we could technically just come in straight. So I ordered some straights. I just don't know when they're going to be here. I don't know how long that takes. And honestly, I need to pin down the inside before I know the length that we need to make. I'll probably put a little bit of excess on here. You know, I don't want it like super tight, but I guess, look, I didn't have to order straights. Let's put this one on the bottom since that one's easier to access right now. Let's say that we put it right here. Okay. We could technically come into it like that. But what I'm afraid of is because you see how they're so close together. You know, it's kind of meant for it to set on the bottom of the car and both of them be pointing forward. So like this one's pointing, that one would be pointing the same way. And so if we have them pointing at each other, it's just going to put a weird kink in it, and see how close they would be if we had one there and one going the other way. So I think a straight in is the best option. Now I'm waiting on a couple other pieces for mounting purposes. I've got some line separators, which I think will work okay, but the clamps that I ordered are too small for this size hose. Now, one of the other things I did buy, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I bought an adapter for basically to kick the fan on at a certain temperature. I wasn't planning on putting this on a switch, and so it came with this, and then obviously it has the thermostat, and I don't remember which, I think it's on at 160, off at 180. It controls the fan. But let me read into this a little more. I think all we have to do is this just screws in to this guy, and then we need to snug that down, but it's the same 6AN fitting. So I had Cam bring me almost every line wrench because every one I grabbed was the wrong size, but got that thing tight with an 8 and a 6. And 6 is actually a little small. It needs to be a 5.5, but got that thing snug. Now it's saying to put a little thread sealant, like a dab of thread sealant on this before tightening it up. Probably will never work now. Thank you. So I'm going to put a little sealant on that, and then we'll try to snug that down. There's no real way to tighten this, guys, because as you can see, it's I may grab a pair of channel locks and just loosely thread that guy in, but it's supposed to be on the inlet side. When I put it on the bottom, it's like hanging down here, and I don't want to see that. So I'm going to put it up top, and this will just be our inlet. We need to make sure of that when we hook up our lines. You know, we need to trace them up to the front and see which one's the inlet. I have an absolute mess of stuff up here, but I want to show you guys what I came up with. Okay, so I got these line separators to kind of hold the lines down there underneath. Now, the problem is I don't have any way to mount these. Okay, I ordered some of these guys, but I don't love that setup, like the rubberized pieces. So what I did was I went to my local hardware store and I bought some M3 by 0.5. That's what this bolt size is that comes out of this. I bought those a little longer so I can drill and tap a hole, and we're gonna mount these directly to the frame or the body, okay? I'm gonna use a piece of foam underneath them to kind of cover that recessed area, and then we're gonna put those directly on the car, okay? So I thought that was kind of neat. I'll show you kind of once I get one put together down there. I'm gonna drill a hole, tap it, and we should be good to go. I'll list this stuff in the description too, by the way. Well, let's talk about the failures, because there's always something, you know? And none of my parts have came in, but let's look at what I was planning on and show you kind of what I'm dealing with. So we've got the hole drilled, and the problem is these are threaded on the back side, okay? So what they're ultimately meant to do is just separate a line. So like this one, I'm not obviously going to put two close together, but see how they're cinched down? Well, what I didn't think about is when I run this one all the way through, it quits turning, okay? So if I thread this hole like I started with, I can't get it started in this. I'd have to drill out the back side of this so it wasn't getting tight on the back end. But what I did was I made the hole a little bigger, thinking I could go all the way through and just put a nut on the outside and still clear the spring. And I still think that's going to be the method I use. But the problem is my bolt is not quite long enough to go through like that, so that's obviously not going to work. The other issue I'm running into is back here. I think I could get away with that by drilling out the back of one of these, but I need a right angle drill to do the other hole I'd like, which would be back here in the back somewhere. So I don't know. I'm still waiting on a couple other strap options. So guys, this is, I think, where we're going to probably end up ending this video unless that stuff comes in the next day. So I just wanted to show you kind of my troubles, but I think this is going to work, and we were able to get the gas tank out, and yeah, we just got to work with some line issues at this point.